Hello, everyone. Welcome to Decoding Downtowns, brought to you by Vistity. In this podcast, we dive deep with leaders from business improvement districts across the nation, revealing the strategies that are shaping the future of urban development and economic growth. Thanks for joining us. Hey, it's Jamie Schwartzman. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host for Decoding Downtowns. You know, this is a real treat. We get to go all over the country, and today we're going to downtown Brooklyn. We'll be meeting with Regina Myer. She's the president of the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership in Brooklyn, New York. Regina, how are you today? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. Really appreciate it.
Well, we really value your opinions and your insights. Tell us a little bit about downtown Brooklyn. Give us the elevator pitch.
The elevator push. Downtown Brooklyn is the center of it all for the borough of Brooklyn, which is saying a lot, because most people in Brooklyn think that Brooklyn is the center of the world. And the truth is, though, what's fabulous about downtown Brooklyn, it is truly one of the most connected neighborhoods in New York City. All subway lines but one run through downtown Brooklyn. And what that means is that if you can get here, you can also go anywhere. And that accessibility really defines us. We started as the Civic Center for the city of Brooklyn and the major shopping street, Fulton Street. And that evolved, of course, once Brooklyn became a part of the five boroughs, but it still maintained that real center because of the court system and historically the government system here. But the truth is now, downtown Brooklyn in the post-war era has evolved into an amazing mixed-use neighborhood. And I really can't wait to talk to you about that this session.
Well, tell us about the partnership. How's the partnership structured? How are you organized? How are you financed?
The Downtown Brooklyn Partnership is a really interesting organization. We're actually made up of 4 separate organizations brought together with the common goal, of course, of making downtown Brooklyn great. Why do we have so many organizations? It's because historically, 3 different business improvement districts were created to serve separate geographies. Great news, though. The separate geographies all line up together, and there's one entire geography with 3 business improvement districts. And we work as one great organization, really doing the best we can to keep downtown Brooklyn clean, safe, do marketing, and really advocate. The other secret sauce, though, is that we have a separate business advocacy partnership, which is a membership-driven organization. So our business improvement districts, like most in the nation, are funded through voluntary assessments for each property owner. Our business advocacy arm is a membership organization. It makes up nearly 1/5 of our budget, which is really significant. And those members are the people that are so committed to really bringing downtown Brooklyn to the next level. Mostly property owners, some institutions like schools or culturals, but each with the common goal of really making downtown Brooklyn great.
So when you aggregate this all together, it sounds like you have these 4 different organizations, but you're able to consolidate management, and that helps provide more efficiency across all the different bids, correct?
Exactly. I mean, you certainly don't need a passport to go from one bid to another in any city. Here, it would be really laughable because they're literally on both sides of certain streets. So no passport necessary. We run 3 business improvement districts as if it's one. Our major contracts are combined and proportionately paid for by the various bid budgets, for instance. But my finance team does an awesome job holding all of that together. I think what's really nice about having the organizations, though, is that different areas of the neighborhood have retained distinct identity. Right. And in New York City, that's important, right? We're a really big city, really dense, lots of people, lots of things going on. but different neighborhoods have different flavor, and we feel strongly about that.
Hmm. So sort of order of magnitude then, when you kind of put it all together, what are the kind of, what's the size of the staffing? What's the size of budgets? Give us a sense, because we have a smaller group that maybe.
Yeah. No, to be honest, let's just talk about it as a whole. It really doesn't make sense to break down budgets. It it gets too detailed too quickly. Basically, we're about a $12 million organization. Most of our revenue, of course, is about keeping the neighborhood clean and safe. So public safety, neighborhood cleaning, and landscaping really is about 50% of all dollars right back out at the street.
Hmm.
Of course, there's normal overhead and staff. There's about 23 people that work here, plus about 20 people on our own public safety division. And we really strive to do the best we can to make the neighborhood great.
Hmm. So what's it like to be president of this organization?
It's a real joy. We get to really advocate for the future. And that really takes a lot of different avenues. We've had huge success in terms of improvements to streetscape. We're also really keep our eye on the ball. Going through COVID, of course, there were so many ups and downs. And we'll really worry about the here and now. So it's really, to me, that wonderful balance of, oh my gosh, a planter fell over and it's making a mess. That's the here and now, the today problem, to something really, really out in the future. Like, let's start planning for the next 5 to 10 years.
So how did you get into this line of work? What's your story? What inspires you to do what you do?
Oh, well, I've been super lucky. I've been doing most of my career here in Brooklyn. I had a over 20-year career in the planning department.
Mm.
The last 8 years of that were directing the Department of City Planning's Brooklyn office. And the last 6 of those were in the first half of the Bloomberg administration, where I had the opportunity to lead major rezoning efforts in both downtown Brooklyn and Greenpoint Williamsburg, which both really changed the face of development in the borough and set, I believe, us up for success here in Brooklyn. After I left the planning department, I had this amazing almost 10-year stint as the founding president and builder of Brooklyn Bridge Park, which is the 1.5-mile long park along the waterfront right behind your backdrop. And that was an amazing, amazing job of a lifetime for me to build a park. And we also worked through the public-private partnerships to finance the park. Proceeds from the ground rent from 4 development sites in Brooklyn Bridge Park actually paid for significant waterfront infrastructure costs as well as day-to-day maintenance.
Well, your district has certainly received benefits from your work. I mean, right now it's an enviable place to be. It's become, fashionable. It's got character, and it's drawing a lot of interesting people into it.
For sure, for sure. And when I left Brooklyn Bridge Park to come to the partnership, I knew I wanted another challenge. This one's, to be honest, a little messier, a little bit more complicated. We don't have site control. It's all about the people. So it's a really different challenge, but when you make strides in that way, they're incredibly gratifying.
Well, let's talk a little bit about economic development and what are some of the ways that your organization is playing a role in promoting economic development in Brooklyn.
For sure, for sure. Economic development is really key to how we think about growth in downtown Brooklyn. A few things have happened over the past 2 generations since the rezoning. One was the absolute transformation into a mixed-use neighborhood, where we did have 1,000 housing units. We now have 22,000 with 8,000 in construction. We nearly have 50,000 people living in downtown Brooklyn. It's been a huge change to an incredibly vital mixed-use neighborhood. So morphing from civic center with shopping to incredible mixed-use neighborhood. The other thing, honestly, is the ups and downs of both the office cycle, which we had a huge boom in development of office. And now post-COVID, honestly, like many, many other places in the country, we have a vacancy rate over 20%. And we spend a good deal of time advocating to the city about reuse for commercial office. The other aspect of economic development that I think is really not yet hit a stride is thinking about retail post online shopping. And we have a shopping district that historically was dominated by soft goods and not luxury goods, which is when you think about many, many shopping districts throughout the country, that's exactly what they were defined by. That kind of shopping has disappeared. Humans want, when they want a couple of sweaters, a couple of t-shirts, pair of sweatpants, what do? They open their phone and click because they pretty much know what they're going to get. And we have to adjust to that. And the challenge of keeping our district lively in all portions of the district is really, I think, our number one concern. We have aspects of the district that are just doing fantastic when it comes to retail. We have an amazing project called City Point, which is a combination of big box and boutique retail that's absolutely killing it with an amazing food hall. And then we have areas that have significant vacancy. So it's really a super interesting time to be thinking about street life. And honestly, I just came back from the International Downtown Conference. I don't think this is a unique issue at all. This is really an issue that many downtowns are facing right now.
What are some of the things you're doing right now that you're seeing that are really working?
What's really working is improving our neighborhood and improving our streetscape. We retained two preeminent architecture firms 5 years ago, WXY and Big, to come up with a public realm plan for our neighborhood to refresh. And I will tell you, we were so lucky. First of all, the work is so strong. But second of all, through COVID, we were able to really effectively advocate to both the public sector and private property owners that it was time to really make the outdoors refresh, because that's what we needed to be outside during COVID. And so we've had developers as well as the city of New York investing in our streetscape to really remake our downtown. What else is working? A tremendous amount of work to be responsive to our owners. And that's really the lifeblood of our team, but it's super important.
Let's talk a little bit about data and the kind of data you're tracking. And you know, where there's a lot of data out there, what I want to know from your perspective is what's the data that people really care about? And the people I'm talking about are investors, developers, stakeholders, the people that can really move the needle in economic development.
Yeah, I think the data comes in a couple of different categories. Overall population and the aspects of population, people really want to understand, especially as we are changing to a fully mixed use neighborhood. We also, which seems basic, but it really is effective. The other thing is we do a lot of street by street, sidewalk by sidewalk canvassing because we have to be the experts. So I still devote staff time, junior staff time, intern staff time to really go back outside and make sure we know what's going on. So that basic existing conditions data goes a long way because then we can really, really analyze it and make sure we know what the changes are and the trends. Like I mentioned earlier, this trend that honestly, soft goods are on a decline, but food and beverage, anything experiential is what's exciting and what's still drawing people. Other data points we really rely on is very, very basic pedestrian counts, subway usage in New York City. That's huge. And we have seen increases in subway usage. And
Is it easy to get that data, the transit data?
yeah, the MTA does aggregate very effective data because it's by station, and that really lets us understand the variations. Obviously, like others, we use the brokers do a great job on overall vacancy in our neighborhood, and we use that data. Investors do want to hear that, as well as property owners, right? Everybody cares about everyone else's projects. So, so those are the things that I think nationwide most of my peers use, and they're dependable indicators. I would say technologically, we've moved beyond just using counters, and we are dabbling into Placer AI. And my team is doing an amazing job really unlocking how much data we can get from folks' phones. And what we're most interested in is what consumers are coming to downtown Brooklyn. Where are they shopping? Are they working here? Are they living here? Which parts of the neighborhood are they coming from? Those kind of things. And Placer AI is, as you know, an incredibly strong tool. And we're just really sort of getting our sea legs on using it.
Do you guys maintain a pipeline report of projects that are, in planning, construction, and delivery?
Sure thing. We have what we call it the development matrix.
Mm.
And it's really a great tool because it really demonstrates how much development has happened as in the past 20 years. I'll get you a copy of it after this call. But it's a really wonderful, wonderful tool because it does demonstrate how much change downtown Brooklyn has undergone.
How would you characterize the momentum right now in development?
It's still proceeding. Like I said, 8,000 units are under construction right now. Another thing I want to mention, though, which is super interesting, is over 9,000 of the units built or in construction now were built on sites that were formerly devoted to the automobile, either parking lots or parking garages. And there you have it. It, in a nutshell, we're a transit-rich area where people use the subways and other forms of mass transit, bicycling, walking, the regional rail, and no one misses these 9,000 spaces.
Yeah, well, being an Angelino, we're jealous of that.
Yeah, but it's borne out on the numbers. It's just phenomenal, Jamie.
Using all this data, how are you using that to tell the story of development in downtown Brooklyn? And do you think that storytelling, the way you're doing it, has changed?
Yes. In fact, I'm really, really happy you asked that question. Like I mentioned, we always had a development matrix, which is a very, very, how do I say it? It's basically a spreadsheet and then a bunch of PDFs. I like it and I use it, but that's what it is. This year, we had a really, really great opportunity. We celebrated the 20th anniversary of the rezoning of the downtown area. And although we always collected data on our transformation, this year we used Esri's story map to visualize all of the changes. And that brought the data to life. We were able to show so much more data in an interactive fashion. And then, of course, the real strength is incorporating Google Street View to show incredible before and after pictures. And it's been tremendously valuable. I would love to make sure the viewers and or listeners have a chance to get that link at the end because it's really a cool use of Esri's story map.
Perfect. So, that leads perfectly into my next question, which is, do you see these types of tools, immersive views, dashboards, data visualization, do you see that playing a role in your economic development initiatives in the future?
Absolutely. But I would say, the one thing that hasn't changed, Jamie, is a picture is worth 1,000 words sometimes, right? And we've just gotten better at using pictures. And that's what I think is most interesting. the visualizations from individual buildings is super important for individual investors and developers. But I don't personally think that from a district-wide perspective, I need to explain why these views are better than those views or why this building is positioned right. For us, success comes in so many different ways. But I think the story map, which shows the overall neighborhood and gave us the tool to go literally corridor by corridor, that is rich. And so having that, it's also prompted us to do different slider and different visualizations on our Instagram, on our website, but using basically that one tool. You know what I mean?
It makes perfect sense to me. You're playing, this is the space that, I live in and our software's in. So this area of data visualization is of key importance to me too. I'm just glad to know that you see the value of it. And it looks like you guys are using these tools really well.
Yeah, no. And, to be honest, it's nothing like having a great team. So, having the team that understands the power of these tools for me is fantastic.
Well, let's talk about the next one short year ahead, coming to the close of 2024 right now. And if you were to look at sort of a year out, it's going to go fast. My question for you, Regina, is what's on the table right now? What needs to get done in the next 12 years, 12 months, not 12 years, but what are the priorities right now?
I'd say there too, and it goes back to the early part of this conversation. It's continuing to improve our streetscape. We're so lucky. The city is committed nearly $8 million to refresh Fulton Street, and we're working on that with the city block by block. So hopefully within the year, Jamie, I'm going to send you some new pictures, and you're going to be really impressed with the new, vital Fulton Street landscape. The other thing is the retail and office, and that is going to, really be a great deal of work to get the word out that this is a great place to come to work and come to shop, and get our owners to really see that there's still opportunity here. So those are the two things I would say.
Let's play make-believe for a moment, and we're going to pretend that you've been handed a magic wand, and you now know how to use this magic wand to cast a spell to promote the vitality of downtown Brooklyn. Regina Myer, how would you use your magic wand?
I would use my magic wand to fill every vacant space, right? We've got so many great things going for us with our amazing new mixed-use district. But what we need to do is really just make sure that everybody gets a chance to shop, or to eat, or to hang out on the ground floor of all our great buildings. And really, I'd also love to see more people coming back to work. It's a great place to come work.
So in the retail space and shopping space, where do you think, what are the right types of retailers? What are the right types of food? What do you think is going to be successful right now? So if you're speaking to potential prospective tenants, who's the right person to come in and take a space?
I think there's a couple of different things. So I'm sorry I don't have one answer. One is about food. It's not just restaurants, it's also buying food. We have an incredibly successful Trader Joe's in our district, and we have one right outside our district. There's no doubt that people want quality food. And seeing the success of this area that I mentioned earlier, City Point, I know that having a great combination of food to buy, to prepare at home, and food to eat on the go is really something that entices New Yorkers and Brooklynites. So that's one thing, is really, really hunkering into the food and beverage aspect of the neighborhood. We've also had a couple of amazing new restaurants open in the past few years. Gage and Tulder, which is a very beautiful white tablecloth restaurant, is just killing it. We have some of the greatest Korean barbecue, believe it or not, outside of Koreatown, right here in downtown Brooklyn. So there's some really cool places to eat. We just need more of them. The other thing, though, is, honestly, and this is the job for the brokers and the owners, not ours as specific, is chasing the brands that differentiate and do destination shopping. And in a place like New York City, and you know this from Los Angeles, this is so dispersed. People go in New York, they do a certain kind of shopping in Williamsburg or Soho or Midtown. What we need to do is get the brands that differentiate downtown Brooklyn.
Makes perfect sense. Regina, before we wrap up, how can we keep our eyes on what's going on in downtown Brooklyn and you in particular?
Oh, it's really nice of you to ask. Well, downtownbrooklyn.com is our website. It's great on our phone and at your desk. So definitely check that out. Same on Instagram. We do a lot, especially emphasizing our amazing events. We present over 140 events each year throughout our neighborhood, in our parks and our plazas. We just had a new park open up this year called Abolitionist Place. Got to mention that. So I really think that, following us on the web and on Instagram is probably the best.
Excellent. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, Regina. It's really just it's a treat to get to peer behind the scenes and see what's going on in downtown Brooklyn.
Oh, it was a pleasure to meet with you, and I will send you those links, both on the development matrix and the story map.
Perfect. And we'll post those into the notes as well. And to our listeners, thank you again for joining us for another episode of Decoding Downtowns. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Vistity, for making it all possible. And, until we meet up again and go to another destination, keep exploring and innovating in your district.
Thank you for joining us today for Decoding Downtowns. If you've enjoyed our podcast, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's brought to you by Vistity, the leading geospatial visualization platform for data-driven decisions. Stay connected, stay informed, and let's continue to shape the future of our cities together. Until next time, I'm Jamie Schwartzman.